We are a week into the Biden administration, and I'm already tired of the banality of socialist Democrats who appear to have everybody in this country on the run. As many of you know, the Democrats' ideology of government oppression, no freedom of expression or religion, is as old as time. Only the American ideal of freedom, liberty, prosperity, and the rule of law is new and a fresh approach in man's relation to man. In my opinion, it's time to stand against left-wingers and their double standards. It's time to say with a unified voice, no to the Democrats' cancerous cancel culture. We can all start doing that with some good old-fashioned truth-telling. It's time Americans reject socialist supremacy from the communist cult. That's our suggestion in tonight's preamble. For those of you who are eager to show your contempt and seek justice from the communist government of China for our nearly 450,000 dead fellow Americans, courtesy of a virus they intentionally released onto the world. The Biden folks, well, they're laying down the line their totalitarian law against you. They will not tolerate your or my criticism of communist China.
And the president will sign a memorandum directing all federal agencies to take steps to combat xenophobia and acts of violence against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders who have been targeted by political leaders in our nation's response to COVID-19.
This is a thinly veiled shot across the bow aimed at we Americans who want to confront our enemy rather than support China's inhuman and totalitarian regime. It's pretty telling. Unlike Democrats, I wish to oppose China's goal of world domination. How about you? The Biden administration is full of hypocrites on this score and on race. Did you hear Susan Rice, the woman who disgraced herself for Barack Obama by blaming the attack on Americans in Benghazi on a film that nobody had seen? She said, quote, all federal agencies will take steps to combat xenophobia and acts of violence against Asian Americans, end quote. That's simply not true. Andy Ngo is a journalist, a gay man, and is an Asian American. Because of Biden's militants, Antifa, a terrorist organization, Andy Ngo says he is being forced to leave his home, the United States. In his interview with Sky News, Ngo says that his upcoming book, Unmasked, Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy, well, that has angered violent Democrats so much that threats against his life have skyrocketed. Susan Rice nor Mr. Biden have condemned this conduct from their socialist radicals. Antifa feels free to threaten a journalist, gay Asian man. And we all can see why. He's the wrong kind of gay Asian journalist. In Democrats' minds and actions, left-wing violence is acceptable. And those who threaten Andy don't find themselves canceled or thrown off of anti-American social media. Even Democrats, some Democrats out there, now starting to take notice of this hypocrisy and the dangers the socialist supremacists pose.
The mob that stormed the Capitol on January 6th to try to stop Congress from carrying out its constitutional responsibilities were behaving like domestic enemies of our country. But let's be clear. The John Brennans, Adam Schiffs, and the oligarchs in big tech who are trying to undermine our constitutionally protected rights and turn our country into a police state with KGB-style surveillance are also domestic enemies and much more powerful and therefore dangerous than the mob that stormed the Capitol.
Yeah, she's got that about right. You know, I count three Democrats in all of the United States who stand up for the traditional American value of free speech. Tulsi Gabbard, who you just saw, Congressman Henry Cuellar, and Eric Johnson. He's the mayor of Dallas. The rest are socialist sellouts. Now, speaking of North Texas, the college that laughingly calls itself Texas Christian University has jumped into the un-American cancel culture fray. According to News Talk 820 WBAP, TCU is pushing for the removal of Republican Congressman Roger Williams from their Board of Trustees. Their reason? TCU is afraid of the ridicule the university could face because Williams objected to the Electoral College votes in the presidential election. Oh, I see. So according to the socialist supremacists in the communist cult, objecting to an election is grounds to have your life, your business, even your political party canceled. Interesting.
Could there be a big pothole on the road to the Bush inaugural? Rumors of a congressional challenge to the election results are picking up steam on the eve of the certification of the Electoral College numbers.
You say it's just a protest, but it does bring attention to the problem of our system when it comes to voting here in the United States.
We've got an electoral system out there that doesn't work. We spend more on prison food in this country than elections.
What they want to do, in part, is to highlight what they call the massive disenfranchisement, as Representative Conyers said in the letter that you just presented, of voters in Ohio.
So many voters were disenfranchised, they said, that the Ohio vote and the result of the presidential election are still in doubt.
The outcome, of course, was not changed, delayed less than 3 hours, though Republican leaders like Congressman DeLay and Ohio Republican Chair Bob Bennett treated it as if the Capitol had been pillaged by the Visigoths.
The Democrats knew that it was a pretty ceremonial objection, but regarded it as important.
Why did both sides treat this like political dynamite?
It would have been nice if both sides could get on a more bipartisan footing and look at these problems. I think Senator Boxer made an excellent point today when she said we've got soldiers abroad dying for democracy, and we need to fix our own democracy here at home, and that's really what it's about.
Our thanks to the Media Research Center for putting together that montage of socialist supremacists in the mainstream media. They were giddy when the Democrats objected to the election results that put President George W. Bush into office. Did TCU throw Democrats off their board of trustees after Democrats objected to the election results? No. Did Democrat donors and supporters have their businesses targeted like Mike Lindell of MyPillow and countless others out there? No. Did Republicans demand that Democrats be thrown out of Congress for objecting to election results? No. Right now, Donald Trump, a private citizen, is enduring his second sham impeachment. The impeachers in the House have not identified his offending language that allegedly brought about the second impeachment. Best we can tell, he's being impeached for calling for a peaceful and patriotic protest. Wait. I thought peaceful and patriotic was what American protests were supposed to be. But you can forgive the socialist supremacists in and out of the media. They've been supporting and cheering on BLM and Antifa violent and non-patriotic riots for so long, they've forgotten what a real American protest looks like. But ignorance is no excuse for impeaching President Trump and holding Democrat socialists who actually did cheer on violence blameless.
Some of the success that we've been able to achieve around criminal justice reform would not have happened in recent years were it not for Black Lives Matter. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. And this is a movement, I'm telling you. They're not going to stop. And everyone beware, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that they're not going to let up, and they should not.
Yeah, we've been fairly warned. You know, if inciting violence, as VP Harris just did, is grounds for impeaching President Donald J. Trump, who didn't incite violence, why isn't it grounds for impeaching Harris, who did? Well, it's because of people like this. Mitt Romney, Ben Sasse, Pat Toomey, and the rest, eager to institutionalize a double standard. Unconstitutional and unfair rules that are placed on Republicans, with those same rules never, ever being applied to Democrat socialists. No wonder the Patriot Party, a party that promotes itself as an actual opposition party to the socialist supremacists and the communist cult, that is the Democrat Party, is garnering more appeal every day. Unfairness. It's simply un-American, and more Americans are waking up to take a stand against that unfairness. Thank God.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.